Hey, I'm Jim Weber in the Fox 13 Weather Center, and thanks for logging on to MyFoxHurricane.com. We continue to watch a still tropical depression. Fred really just continues to struggle, working its way slowly along the Cuban coastline. The enhanced satellite imagery, very similar to what we were seeing yesterday. We have that exposed center, which is sitting to the left or to the west of all that deep convection. I'll go ahead and circle the area where the center is. We are seeing maybe a little bit of convection trying to form closer to the center here in just the last couple of hours here, so maybe a sign that it's trying to do something, but it really continues to be plagued by some strong west and southwesterly wind shear, so that just kind of blows the top of the storm and shifts it all towards the east. That has been a big problem for this system. So here's the latest. Winds are at 35 miles an hour. It's moving to the west-northwest at 12 miles an hour. That general motion is expected to continue probably for the next, say, 18 to 24 hours, and it'll eventually start to turn a bit more towards a northwesterly direction. As it does so and it heads towards the Gulf of Mexico, that's about the time where we expect to see that wind shear maybe lessening a little bit, and that would be the period where we'd really start to expect to see some strengthening of this system. So as you look at that forecast track, you can see basically that's right about the time where it gets to the Florida Keys and works its way up into the Gulf of Mexico. So if everything works out and there's that lower wind shear, we then would expect to see more of that intensification. Remember, there's plenty of warm water in the Gulf of Mexico. We have seen that time and time again, where you get these tropical systems that work their way into the Gulf and they just explode. Now, not saying this is going to explode by any means, but what I'm saying is we've got plenty of energy that if we can get the right environment with a lower wind shear, we will see some of that strengthening. But still, what we're talking about is not really a wind event, even though we're talking about 40, 45, maybe 50 mile an hour winds. Remember, it does look like this will shift a bit further towards the west. Still, we're right on the edge of that cone, so you got to watch it. But what we're really talking about is not basically a destructive wind event. We're talking about a rain event. And anytime you're on that right-hand side, you're on the wetter side, the heavier rain, and the possibility of some isolated tornadoes as well. So if we get some of these bands that roll through, some of those stronger bands, that's what we could be dealing with, some flooding rains, because we have been just inundated with the rain over the past several weeks here. So any additional rain, that is just going to cause flooding. And then if you get some of these strong bands, you could be talking about the threat of some tornadoes. So here it is on Futurecast with the moisture working its way up, and you can see that track working its way up into the Gulf of Mexico. So really the time that we'll be focusing on this the most will be late Saturday night and into Sunday morning. You look at the European and the GFS, and we're starting to at least get more agreement among these, especially in that track working its way into the eastern Gulf of Mexico. But now you're starting to see maybe about the same intensity. I will say the European showing this as maybe a bit stronger of a system than what the GFS is doing, but we are starting to get at least a little bit more consensus. So over the next 7 days, talking about the rainfall, really this is over the next few days here, along the west coast, we could be talking about 3 to 5 inches of rain. And then as you move away from the coastline into our interior locations, that's where you're going to see lesser amounts of rain. So this is going to be, again, at least a good portion of this will tend to be more towards the coastline. Wind gust as we get into Sunday morning. You notice those winds start to pick up some as we get into Saturday evening, but by Sunday morning into the afternoon, that's where some of these winds gusting up to close to tropical storm force winds as we go through the day on Sunday. Now we do have another area to watch further out into the Atlantic on top of everything else. Yes, we do have another area that we've got to watch. This is Invest 95. This will continue to work its way generally on that westerly track, and we'll keep you posted on that as well as we go through the next several days right here on MyFoxHurricane.com.